good morning, evening, or night. Wherever you are, welcome to WHAM today. Take a deep breath, clear your mind, and let's drift through the whispers of today's world, one quiet thought at a time. As we wrap up Wednesday, 23rd April 2025, let's see what stories are unfolding around us. China is strategically navigating economic and technological pressures arising from its trade relationship with the United States. The nation is actively creating an independent payment system to lessen dependence on the U.S. dollar-dominated global financial system. The Politburo is meeting to develop strategies to counter U.S. tariffs, which some analysts view as a chance for China to reshape its economy for future growth, similar to the 1997 crisis. However, these tariffs are already affecting businesses, with e-commerce entrepreneur Camille Satar reporting a 33% drop in revenue. U.S. export restrictions on NVIDIA's AI chip sales to China are poised to benefit domestic AI chip manufacturers, such as Huawei, while the U.S. tech sector feels pressure from plummeting critical metal exports from China due to trade war restrictions. CATL, an EV battery maker based in Ningbo, China, has announced advancements in e-battery technology, claiming to exceed BYD's battery performance with longer range on a 5-minute charge, also improving cost, recharge speed, cold weather performance, and range. Tesla is offering enticing 0% loan incentives for Model Y buyers in China after ceasing Model S and Model X imports because of tariff effects. New regulations are also being introduced to ensure the safety of self-driving EVs after a fatal accident involving a Xiaomi vehicle. Videos circulating online showed humanoid robots struggling and falling during a half marathon, with only 6 out of 21 robots finishing. Chinese solar panel manufacturers are considering establishing factories abroad to bypass U.S. tariffs and gain more cost-effective entry to the U.S. market. Turning to the United States, the nation is grappling with economic challenges and strategic competition. The IMF has lowered GDP growth estimates for both the U.S. and China, citing increasing trade tensions. U.S. tariffs are impacting Chinese businesses, prompting strategic responses from China. Google opposes the DOJ's proposed breakup, claiming it would weaken the U.S. in global competition with China. Relief has come to Chinese shipyards with the scaling back of port fee plans. Globally, trade tensions between the U.S. and China are contributing to a worldwide economic slowdown, reflected in the IMF's reduced GDP growth estimates. India's stock market is showing strong performance, marking its 6th consecutive session of gains, fueled by financials, autos, and FMCG stocks. The Sensex closed at 79,595.59 and the Nifty 50 at 24,167.25. HDFC Bank has reached a market capitalization milestone of Euro 15 lakh crore, while AKL Technologies announced an interim dividend of Euro 18 per equity share for FY25. VC investment in India has dipped to $24 billion amid global uncertainties, and Alpha Energy's IPO opens soon with a reduced issue size. Bharti Airtel is set to acquire 400 MHz of spectrum in the 26 GHz band from Adani Data Networks. Regarding international matters for India, Prime Minister Modi and U.S. Vice President Vance have recognized progress in India-U.S. trade negotiations, and Modi plans to visit Saudi Arabia. Conversely, LG and Samsung are challenging an Indian policy on electronic waste recycling payouts. United States. The International Monetary Fund, IMF, has revised its outlook downward for both the U.S. and the global economy, citing the impact of tariffs and the resulting economic uncertainty. Cracking U.S. confidence is contributing to record gold prices. Roche plans to invest $50 billion in pharmaceuticals and diagnostics within the U.S. The U.S. has imposed tariffs as high as 3,521% on solar imports from Southeast Asia. Guide. Major trade progress has been reported with India during Vice President Vance's visit. U.S. stocks have declined following President Trump's criticism of the Federal Reserve Chair. Federal officials largely missed a major hurricane response conference. Several Chinese tech companies, including Beijing's Smart Walnut Education Technology, Shenzhen Cloudsky Technologies, Saihui and Zhonghe Group, are considering IPOs in the U.S. amid market turmoil and the trade war. A federal judge ruled that Google holds a monopoly on the search market, leading to debate on penalties like forcing Google to spin off Chrome. Turning to China, Beijing is reportedly focused on avoiding the appearance of pleading for a deal to resolve the ongoing US-China trade war. Several Chinese tech companies, including Beijing's Smart Walnut Education Technology, Shenzhen Cloudsky Technologies, Saihui and Zhonghe Group, are considering IPOs in the U.S. amid market turmoil and the trade war. Moving to Australia, Adani Ports has acquired North Queensland Export Terminal for $2.40 billion through a non-cash deal involving new equity shares, supporting their vision for a connected port network. Australian shares were supported by gold miners and banks during a holiday-shortened week. Brewed is taking on Australia's top-selling cars with its new hybrid Shark pickup truck. In Vietnam, increased efforts are being implemented to combat fraud related to exports to the U.S., according to official documents. Finally, in Hong Kong, Goldman Sachs reports that the fungibility mechanism has been effective, and global investors are becoming accustomed to trading adjust. Europe's financial markets saw an upswing, mirroring the positive start in U.S. stock trading. The European Central Bank, ECB, led by Christine Lagarde, signaled possible routes for tariff talks between the European Union and the United States. This is happening amid worries that tariffs put in place by former U.S. President Donald Trump could negatively impact 5 major European firms. In addition, Europe's arms industry is profiting from a change in the continent's priorities. It is rethinking its post-Cold War strategy of favoring domestic investment over military spending, with the Eurofighter being a prime example. Amidst global economic uncertainties, Asian markets are showing varied performance, influenced by worries over U.S. investments and lingering trade tensions that began under the Trump administration. The U.S. has now imposed definitive tariffs on solar imports originating from Southeast Asia, a move aimed at Chinese firms like Jinko Solar and Trina Solar that operate in the area. These tariffs could climb as high as 3,500%. Experts at UBS propose a strategic pivot towards India, specifically recommending fast-moving consumer goods, FMCG, stock. UBS analysts believe that companies such as D-Mart, Trent, Hindustan Unilever, Hull, and Godrej Consumer Products, GCPL, are poised for a notable earnings recovery in fiscal year 2026, bolstered by the evolving economic landscape. Japan's Nomura is poised to purchase Macquarie's U.S. and European public asset management arm for $1.80 billion. This acquisition will elevate Nomura's total assets under management to an impressive $770 billion. Meanwhile, NVIDIA's CEO, Jensen Huang, is advocating for Japan to its power generation capabilities. This expansion is deemed necessary to accommodate the escalating demands of AI development. Adding to economic concerns, a recent survey reveals that certain Japanese companies are already feeling the adverse consequences of tariffs previously enacted by the Trump administration. The United States is set to receive a massive $50 investment from Swiss pharmaceutical company Roche, boosting its economic ties. Bath & Body Works is currently enjoying a competitive edge because its manufacturing is primarily based in the U.S., giving it a substantial tariff advantage. The United Kingdom's economic outlook dims as the IMF cuts the 2025 growth forecast, pointing to the impact of U.S. tariffs and high borrowing costs. Meanwhile, Santander considers decoupling its motor finance business from its present UK structure, potentially reshaping its operational footprint in the region. Poland is advocating for the European Union to strengthen its trade relationship with the United States. The Polish finance minister specifically highlighted defense as a promising sector for increased collaboration, especially given the current anxieties surrounding tariffs. United States customers will see DHL temporarily suspending shipments of packages valued over $800. This policy change is a direct consequence of new customs regulations influenced by President Trump's global trade policy. Brazil and Argentina are both benefiting from the ongoing global trade war, especially in their agricultural sectors. Both countries are experiencing increased demand and favorable market conditions for their meat and grain exports. Pakistan is expected by Fitch Ratings to permit a gradual depreciation of its rupee currency. And that's a wrap for today's news, because even headlines need a nap. Stay curious, stay kind, and let the noise fade as you find your quiet. Take care, stay awesome, and I'll see you next time on WHAM Today.